Welcome to the NZ Nomad Runner podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris Lucas.
And I'm your co-host, Charlotte Milne.
We are run coaches at CMF Running, where we coach runners and athletes of all abilities to any surface, any distance, races. Today we're recapping Faultline Ultra a little bit, but mainly we're going to share some insights into Char's race, first 100 miler and first DNF.
Yes, double banger with those two things.
Yeah, so it's Tuesday, for context as well. It's Tuesday after race weekend, so we're trying to do it fresh.
Yes.
So it's all on top, and instant reactions or instant reflections, I guess. A couple of days on, and just hope to share with you guys, a little bit about just what it's like, what the runner goes through. And because it's not just all about in on the race as well, isn't it? It's like other things that, there's other little things that lead up to it, and like sometimes, in this case, probably,
Definitely,
just a lot of little things, add up and that. Hopefully we can share some of those things from you, both from you, the athlete side, and me, the crew and pacer side. But first of all, great weekend, eh?
Yeah, amazing. Obviously, first of all, pretty stunning weather, and then also
2 from 2 on the weather front.
Yeah, man, it was perfect weather really for a miler in or any distance really in Wellington in April, so that's a big blessing, also just lots of crew. The crew did actually really well, from the 25k to the 100 miler.
Yeah, we had a lot of solid results, from the CMF team out there, eh?
Yeah, we sure did.
And Kirili, I think, was like one of the standout ones for me. Yeah, she was in the 100 miler as well, and I think it might have been her third 100 miler, eh? Maybe she's done a couple before, and sub 28, fourth female. That was pretty awesome, and just the way she ran it too was really cool. I think from start to finish. Yeah,
she took 7 hours off her previous 100 mile PB.
That's pretty nuts as well, considering Faultline's not an easy, which we'll get into as well. But it's not an easy 100 miler. It's definitely up there with challenges. So there's an amazing result for Kirili. So well done.
Well done, Kirili. You're a little inspiration, even from the amount of planning that you did, that went into it, and just your enthusiasm that we, Kirili, you live in Australia, you also came across the ditch to do this miler, so that's awesome as well. Obviously that means that I think you went for one run on the course, maybe one on Friday, I'm not really sure, but it was awesome, and your vibe, I guess, is infectious.
Yeah, and the preparation was awesome too, eh? Just with the logistics of the day itself, crew and all the things, because we were sort of I was seeing your crew all throughout the day as well, so it was really cool. Yeah, and also the training. So obviously her training was, sort of training in summer for an autumn race sort of thing, the lead up, or late summer, a lot of those key weeks. And there was some hot weather over there, right? So it's kind of nice if you're listening to this and you're coming over from Australia thinking you're doing Faultline. That's quite a nice thing. You can train in the heat and then come over to slightly cooler race, eh? But then it could go the other way too, and Wellington could just turn on a shit day for you.
Yeah, I'm sure that will happen one year, and there will just be a bunch of new stories come of that. But until then, it's been pretty stellar.
2 from 2 on the weather fronts. 2 years of Faultline, 2 years of awesome weather.
Yeah.
So well done to all the Faultline team. Putting on it awesome event. Like, yeah, so many like improvements. Well, I don't say improvements, like enhancements, I think is a better word, because it's not like there was anything wrong in year one as such, you know. But yeah, it's just like taking it from like an already good level and bringing it to like an awesome level. Like it's like another, it's so cool. Just all the, yeah, I mean, for one, the course marking was amazing actually. And yeah, little things like the placement of the aid stations, just some of those little things ironed out, eh? Placement at aid station, like the Skyline Hub's a great example. Like last year, it was up like on an exposed hillside, true. And quite hard. Yeah, the portaloos, for example, weren't by the actual hub itself; they were down the hill.
Yes.
So access for the Faultline like volunteers and crew, yeah, would have been difficult setting up, and yeah, also for the crew, yeah, getting up and down there, but also as on an exposed.
Yes, that's right.
Below, you know, so if you're a supporter crew hanging out there for like 2 hours waiting for your runner, you like get frozen on that ridgeline, that skyline ridgeline. Yeah, so little things like that. Like so, this year it was, you know, down off that hill across the road and on a sheltered area, and they were able to put up a bigger marquee and all that. And so like little things like that make a massive difference, eh? You know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was. Yes, it was great. I think I was just reflecting, like last year when we came down here. You know, the reason I sort of chose to do Faultline as my first miler is because I had like some really epic experiences. Like I think the course is epic, and just the whole point to point thing. Like I've always liked point to points.
Yeah.
And also just the views. The sort of vibe of the whole Wellington sort of trails, because I obviously got this feeling before the actual event. And yeah, it just really appealed to me. Like it felt really like, I don't know, empowering almost, to do like an epic thing in an epic like surroundings. And, you know, obviously it did come, yeah, it does with the kind of surroundings. It does come with an element that of hardness. A lot of comments, the word brutal was used, whether you were doing any distance, and it's probably right. Like it is a terrain that is relentless. Like so, the miler had over 5,000 meters of elevation. There's not a lot of flat, and that you're either going, you know, up.
It's either up or down.
Yeah, or you're on a ridge line where you've like got, you know, those kind of goat trails, and shoot, like
you're exposed a lot, not a lot of shelter and sort of thing.
Yeah, and I've got a very black toe because I kicked some pretty big rocks on the top of Skyline.
Yeah, that was my story last year too.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, it's just little things like that obviously, you know, this is trail running, right? You know, for everyone, if it was easy, everyone would be kind of doing it, kind of vibe. But yeah, I just, you know, even though I got a DNF, I definitely will be back. Maybe not next year, but maybe another year. I will want to come back and do it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
I think I'd like to come and do the 50k next year. That appeals to me at Faultline. Yeah, I'd like to do the 50.
Nice.
Because I'd like to actually be in relatively good running condition in the back end of the course.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To actually have a good experience of, like, you know, that Arrow Valley to the finish of actually, you know, running. Rather than when you're in the miler, you're like, Arrow Valley to the finish is just like, you know, it's a hard 21 Ks there, you know, with all those little like sections and stuff.
Yeah, it's just like the last 21, whatever it is, sort of Ks is like different from the entire race. And so not only you're tired, but you have to like somehow compute that you're now running on different terrain. Like I think, when you are tired and like, because in the previous 130 or 40 Ks, like it's kind of like, oh yeah, I was like this, you know, back then. But you know, in those last 20 odd Ks, you're like, oh, I haven't been on this terrain at all in the race, so I'm just going to have to try get through it.
Yeah, and you sort of like, there's, you know, you go over these like field sections and open areas, and you're sort of like, where's the next marker? You know, you're looking for the next marker, road crossings, some stairs, like, yeah.
There is a bit of that, like whereas the markings, I found that still on Skyline and on Colonial Knob. Like I definitely like was
looking for the next one.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was the fog on Colonial Knob or Low Cloud.
It was a bit of both. It was like a bit of both, a bit of I suppose, like with being exposed, like and there's no trees to pin anything on and things like that. So yeah, fortunately I was actually with a runner through some of that section, so we kind of navigated it together, and we actually got through it, all good. And then on Skyline, I think that's one of the only places I actually did get my phone out.
And just to check you're on the course.
Yeah, and I actually am 50-50, but unsure if I actually went off the course at one point, but still arrived at where I was meant to be.
Well, there is a few little...
Yeah, because I like had to go through this little gate and it had no markings on it.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I pulled up my phone and it kind of looked like I was on the course. And then I just went through it, and then I went over the little hill, and there was marking. So I was like, oh, even if I did go slightly off course, I'm still going the right direction.
I can remember doing things like that on Skyline as well. Yeah, definitely, because there is a lot of little tracks next to the tracks and stuff like that. Eh?
Yeah, I think
options.
Yeah, and like being so that was 105 Ks plus in, so that's like the furthest run I've ever done. So I was kind of entering like new territory in terms of everything, mind, feeling, body, and with this race also it's so much in the dark as well, and it's and I was alone in that section, that whole section as well.
So that is a couple of the big things about this race, this miler that you mentioned before on previous podcasts as well, is you're going to be spending pretty much half of, like if you're like a 26 to, I think most of the field is that sort of 26 to 32 hours, let's say. That's sort of most of your mid-pack, and if you're anywhere in that range, then you're going to be, it's pretty much 50% of the race, approximately, you're going to be in the dark. So it's such a big amount of like time in the dark. I remember that last year, and even like just for the bits that I was pacing you, like I'm just like, when is it going to get light? We're getting towards the end of the what would be the end of the race for us. I just remember going, man, when is it going to get light? It's taking so long. And I was trying to tell you positive. I was like, it's going to be light soon.
You're like, I'm actually, when is it going to be light?
Yeah. I was like, don't worry, it's going to be light soon, and you're going to have new burst of energy. Everything's going to be great, And I'm sort of like, talking to myself as well here, pep talking myself. But it just takes ages to get light again. Just so long in the dark, and then on your own as well. So it's like the field just spreads out, and you're just on your own a lot.
Yeah, I was like sort of reflecting on the being on your own thing just as I was writing notes for this podcast. And I personally, there's an element that I seem to like sort of tune out of, sort of like, it's almost like tune into the process or something in a way. Like I'm actually able to spend quite a lot of time by myself, sort of going through the motions. But I don't know sometimes if I get caught out because when you do get to someone, it's almost like you forget how to converse. Actually, and then instead of like sticking with them, you kind of like, oh, I think I was fine by myself because you kind of did it. And then it was like little things like that I noticed like in the race that, when you sort of spend so many hours by yourself, you lose the ability to be with others almost in a way. And then, but there were a few sections where I just did happen to be with, a person for a decent chunk. And I kind of like leaned into it a bit more, and it actually did help.
It does help when you have those patches. Maybe it's like a hard section of terrain, or you're just lonely or whatever. Yeah, it's good to just Yeah, it does help, those things, like working with someone.
Yeah, you don't even have to be talking.
Yeah.
I had that on Colonial Knob, and then I also had it through like Macro as well. And like I really struggled from I was pretty slow between Skyline and 116 Ks ish.
The Macro saddle aid station, the aid station before you go up into Macro.
Yeah. So it felt like a really long section, and I think it kind of was.
Yeah, so it was like a 15K section, eh?
Yeah. I think it took me like 3.5 hours.
It took a lot of people a long time, though, that section as well.
It was hard. Like I had to do more, like I said, more navigating, and you just always, because I have run like a lot of the course, I forever thought I was at the bottom. Like I was like, oh, this is the windy bit down to Macra, to the road.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't.
I just keep going and going and going. I hate it when that happens. That's the worst feeling ever on a miler.
I'm like, okay, I'm there now.
You're like waiting for the aid station for like 10 Ks.
Oh, yeah, that pretty much.
That happened to me at Tarawera Miler this year, remember, right?
Oh, yeah.
We were in Western Okatona, and I was like, oh, it feels like we're getting near the aid station now. And you're like, what? No, it's like 10 Ks to go. But you just, because you're tired, you just lose sort of thing where you are, you know?
Yeah. And obviously being in the dark, literally everything looks the same because it's dark.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So your day overall, like if we back the truck up a bit, like everything. It was sort of like you went out conservative, comfortable on your kind of plan. Everything was sort of tickety boo, really, wasn't it? Like
Yeah. So I think this is like a big sort of overarching theme of, I suppose, what's linked to my DNF is probably like some personality traits. I think for me, like how I sort of raced that first like definitely the first like 50 Ks. The first 50 Ks, you're like just getting into the race, right? And I was like my perfectionism of trying to be conservative, because I had seen like people, last year gone out like quite fast, and like I guess I was scared that if I was to go out too fast, like that I would break down at 80 Ks or whatever. So yeah, I took like to get to Totra, I took like 5 hours and like 15 minutes or so.
And it's like the 35 odd K aid station, or 33 or something.
Yeah.
And which is a hilly part of the course. There's a good 1,500 meters in it. So it's not a fast part of the course, really.
Yeah. And in that section, I like was spending time by myself, and I had passed a few people, and I had to pee no joke, like 8 or 9 times. That
is a lot. Why do you think that is? Interesting. Maybe nerves or something.
Maybe, and I think just maybe the combination of nerves, and then I had tea, I had coffee, and just I had drunk a lot of water as well. So I think it was just all coming out of me, and that. So I had to go into the bush quite a few times for wheeze. But yeah, it was what it was, and it's all good. And then I suppose like at the Totra aid station, I guess the overarching theme of my whole aid station, so I was pretty kind of quick. Big thing for me is like I get really hot, and so I had like lots of ice cloths and things like that.
So at Totra I had a chili bin with cold icy water and a big flannel thing in it, and then cooled you down because it was quite warm. Like Totra, Belmont, those two hubs were warm parts of the day.
The river trail, like it was, it was exposed. It was hot.
You're sort of getting towards lunchtime, and you're out in the open, and heat trapped in the valley a little bit or whatever, eh? Yeah,
and but I think by 50 Ks, that sort of like that 50 Ks to Porirua, 85 Ks, I was passing quite a lot of people. And I wasn't necessarily like going faster. I was just staying steady, staying to the process.
You were super consistent.
Yeah. And there were some parts like, there were some parts that were, man, that bit, the sort of like that, the motor, mountain bike trail down to the woolshed.
Oh, yeah.
God, that's brutal. I just like the ups and the downs. And I caught up to it was quite cool. There was like 3 guys. It was Conan, Fabio, and another guy that were there, and myself. So it was like 4 of us all at that. And we sort of like did quite a lot of yo-yoing. I did quite a lot of yo-yoing with Conan in that section. So that was quite good, being with people and just yarning about how the day was going. But yeah, I definitely, I was feeling good and having fun, actually, And I ran real strong into Potiroa as well, like along the flats. And I was almost like feeling like, okay, I'm getting into the day now.
It's kind of what it felt like for me being at Potiroa hub, like waiting for you. Then you came in and you like closed the gap on some of the runners that had been in front of you, and then you'd overtaken like others that were thing, and it's like, oh yeah, cool, kind of like, yeah. And that's what when we go out with when we prepare our athletes like for a miler, that's sort of the typical kind of vibe, where it's fairly conservative at the start, or fairly evenly paced for as long as it can be before you do start to naturally slow a bit. Typically, that is kind of what we typically see with our crew preparing for milers. It's like you don't really get overtaken too much. You sort of start to reel people in like after 50 odd Ks, 50, 60 Ks. Is that what sort of happened with you, like after 50 Ks?
Definitely. Yeah, it was.
I know that's what happens to me, like when I've done my milers, if I've like paced them well, I'm just sort of slowly picking people off like as the race wears on, and until it kind of just settles into you sort of settle into your position kind of thing, like but much later on.
Yeah.
So that's that was my sense at Potiroa. I was like, oh cool, like things are starting to turn, the things are in motion. And there was quite a quick stop at Potiroa. They had some good toasted sandwiches there. And you ate, a whole toasted sandwich, and you had some peppermint tea,
And the whole Sprite.
Yeah, and you fueled well. So I remember, that was like pretty fast stop, like and that was one of the things, I guess, if we're talking about things that we could have like whatever prepared more, talked about more, like us, like and the thing was like what aid stations we didn't really talk about it much, like what the specific aid station and plans was, like take some more time here or do and so we probably, for me I probably rushed the athlete, happens to be Char my partner. Probably rushed her out of the I'm just like because I'm just pace crew mode, okay. Okay, off you go.
But you're
and but equally it's like you fueled, we had done the things that we needed to do, you were like in relatively good shape, like you felt you were pretty quiet in Potiroa, but it sort of felt like you were pretty dialed, like in what you were doing at that point, and you weren't showing too much signs of like fatigue or whatever, just normal like stuff. So it's kind of like, what do you do? It's like we've done the things, you've had your toasted sandwich, had your Sprite, done the thing, and restocked the bag, and then it's like, cool, I'm going to see you at Skyline in whatever it is, 17 Ks. So it's like, sweet, that's not far away. So it's like, on you go. And you're ready for night. So it had just gone dark or just gone dusk or whatever at that point. So it must have been, it was around 6:20 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so off you went into the next one.
Yeah, that's right. That's pretty much, it's I suppose like you touched on like a sort of like a point, I suppose, if we like rewind the clock, like before I even started, like I guess there were a few little things that happened. I think like so I watched Crude and Pace Chris 3 times, and
to miler finishes,
and it would seem that Chris is very, very good at milers. And I think I've observed it and maybe taken it for granted or something. And then I suppose I think with milers, like it challenges you obviously physically in terms of your running, but it can also challenge you in other areas of your life because it is this big thing. And I think
stretches everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. And historically, like I have never been a very big planner, and it challenged me in that way. And I think like, I suppose like there's a few personal things that were like going on, with like, with in our life, that were challenging. And then I suppose like, there's a fine line between like I think probably like the being partners of the event and being at the event a couple of days beforehand. And,
so we were also working at the event, doing CMF stuff, and as coaches we're like preparing our athletes for the these aren't all excuses, by the way, so we're not we're not saying these things as like excuses. I guess the purpose of us saying these things is to sort of just highlight how like little things just sort of creep in around, little things just creep in. And so whatever that might be for anyone, like people have everyone has their different like life things, circumstances. And so these are just our particular things that, pierce the little, boundary or whatever, and just little things that crept in to our.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And, I like to think, but obviously sometimes when you think, you don't necessarily act. You stay in the thinking, and sometimes that catches me out. And then I think another thing that probably sort of caught me out as well is that everyone is doing milers, and everyone's looking at making it look so easy, because obviously you hear a lot of like success stories, and then you also hear maybe like not the time I was expecting, but you don't necessarily hear like why that was. And I suppose like, with me, like another sort of like overarching theme is that I had a time goal because it's peaked to like what I like it's kind of like that fear of what people think of me if I do X time, or comparison to others, and just a bit of ego really. And I suppose like there was probably a bit of miscommunication between the old coach and client, because we are also partners in life and partners in business, and I'm also a coach. That kind of got a little bit muddled, and that so when I sort of realized that I wasn't going to hit my like time goal, and that I couldn't actually it was just really sudden. I suppose like I couldn't get through it, so I just kind of broke down emotionally. But that kind of stuff all happened like before the race, because
it's all the mental prep stuff, right?
I don't suddenly come up with a time goal like mid race. If I have like a time expectation or goal, like it's made up before the race. And this is things that like honestly say to clients like don't do, and then I've done it.
That's what I was just thinking. And we pretty much just laid out a perfect example for runners and runners in general, runners and the runners that we coach of we've had a good crack at doing the non-recommended things in terms of preparation. And now we're sharing it with you.
And I think this is where like it's sort of like that blurred line between sort of coaching and your personality, and obviously coaching can help sort of like maybe sort of character defects or like challenges that you may have, but ultimately, like, it's not a cure, like coaching, and you kind of can be revealed through this whole process of the miler before, during, and after.
There's nothing like a miler training and a miler race to
humble you,
bring things out.
Yeah, and
about yourself.
It really kind of did, and I suppose I wasn't like, like I probably wasn't like totally prepared for it, because I think that I've been around it for like a few years now, or because of this or because of that, and it seemed not to be that way. And it's
yeah, because we didn't really like, I mean, I kind of thought about some things and like the race week or the week before, about, I wonder if you want to talk about this, like some things. And then, but you seemed kind of like, it's like you seemed kind of all right, and things didn't seem to be coming up. So I'm like, it must be like kind of, sort of felt. And then, distracted with my own thing, like literally this week. So yesterday, the day after Faultline, I like started another job, like another part-time job. That was a big mistake. Like doing, I should have been like, no, I can't start until whatever, Thursday or whatever, start my new job. So I've started like an extra part-time work to help us, live. And yeah, for me, like that was something that was like hanging over me, like coming into just the, race week and that previous 2 weeks, I've been trying to get a lot of CMF stuff done. I was like, I got to get these things, leading into, Faultline and then new job. I'm not going to have as much time and all this stuff, and yeah. Yes. Probably was, I knew it, like, it made me subconsciously too. It's like in your, there's like these adjustments that we've made, like settling in Hutt Valley now in the Wellington region, settling here like permanently, just kind of moved like a few weeks earlier, and it's like, so it's probably over both of us, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I suppose, that's kind of like the personal stuff that I was kind of alluding to, because like I suppose like like in the lead up to this miler, like there's been some sort of hardships in our business, and it's created like obviously financial stress, and it's also in a way created like when you're created less work for me because of like having less clients and things like that. And obviously within a business and with our business, there's more things to do than training plans and stuff like that. But when you're like training for a miler, like your capacity to be innovative, creative, is very limited, because you're just tired. And so you can do the basics, obviously,
the must do's,
but if your must do's aren't very big, then it kind of creates a lot of time of doing not a lot, which is good, because like it meant I had a lot of time to rest, but also it can also manifest into like a bit of overthinking, bit of time to think. That's what I like to do, which isn't a great thing to do. And I
think all runners are probably on the overthinking spectrum.
Yeah, and it's just like thinking bullshit, right? You're just like thinking about things, like thinking about problems, and I suppose thinking about maybe a little bit more things to do with like what I needed to do for the miler. Because sometimes when you are that a little bit more busy, you're just kind of living in the solution, like living in the next thing to do.
Yeah, you don't have time to think about too much. Yeah.
And obviously it can go too far when you're too busy.
Yeah, it just gets unmanageable.
And it gets unmanageable, but it's always like, it's a bit of a balance, right? And I think that, there's just like that stress was definitely going on throughout my miler training, as well. And I guess like, it probably definitely came out, I think, 130, 40 Ks in, when I couldn't really like,
problem solve, Yeah. Because a miler is so much about problem solving, like, those deeper stages, it's about, overcoming like those things that pop up, having the presence of mind to be like, okay, this is happening, what can I do to fix this so I can keep moving forward? It's so much what it is, and shifting the focus onto the next thing that's gonna, help us to keep moving forward. Yeah. So Macra. So where were we? Like in terms of the race, we were, Skyline. Oh, you're at the Macra Saddle kind of hub, aid station. Sorry, 115 odd k's. Bit of a tough section there. Then you kind of felt like you were actually fast from there to Macra.
Yeah.
It's like 5 k's an hour or whatever. So it was like 15 k's, 3 hours. You were down at Macra, and that would have been middle of the night sometime. I don't know what that was.
Like, close to 4.
Yeah, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And you came in. I had just done I had like rushed to, I was like rushing actually to get ready for you coming. In the end, like, because I had gone off, got a coffee, which was a mission. I had to drive like right back into the city. Then there was like, so I was in Wellington CBD at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
Drunk people roaming around. I'm like, where can I get a coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then got back to Macra and ended up having a little nap and this kind of stuff. And and then I was like getting ready, and I was hoping to get ready to pace as well myself. And chatted to a few other runners. And then one of our guys that we trained for the Maida, Glenn, who did a sub 30, which was an awesome run. And he was having trouble with his feet, like some big blisters on. And he also wasn't traveling too good. He was considering a drop and at the aid station. And so I was like, no, man, you're going back out there. You're going back out there. And I got my foot kit, from our crew bag. And we got sorted out, got the pin out, popped the blisters.
Nice.
Yeah, got the pads on there, got this tape over them, and off he went.
Cool.
With Graham, who was pacing him. And, closed it out. So then after that, I was like, well, shit, I got to get, I was like rushing to get ready for you. And then it was like, I just got things done in time. And then you were there. Yeah. How were you, like, feeling at the 1:30 aid station? Because, again, we didn't quite... They had run out of the toasties there. Or they couldn't make fresh ones, and so that was a bit of a bugger. And, the old broth... The ramen broth thing wasn't quite doing it. And there was another thing, we should have had our own noodles, eh? Like, we should have had our own noodles. Man, it's like, how much are those things? Like 80 cents or something? Why didn't we have some noodles like that? Would have been like some quality calories, and we didn't have it. Yeah, I think we were expecting, some kind of a la carte.
Well, no, they had actually pretty alright stuff last year, to be fair. Like, it was pretty good last year.
Yeah. So didn't quite, probably we just couldn't quite. I know from my crewing perspective at Macra, I wasn't quite happy, about what we were able to sort of get into you there, like in the sort of hot food department, or those sort of things that you'd feel, that the athlete needs at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and we weren't quite able to get that satiating type of food into you. And I think that, like, that little things like that, because, fueling has a effect on your mental state in a race. Like, so if the fuel's going in, then you mentally feel better as well, right? So for me, that was a race day thing in that moment. Because it's like one next hub's like whatever it was, 147 k's or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's
17 k's up the road.
Yeah. I actually forever had like 5 k's extra on my watch. But yeah, it was meant to be like 144 k's. Arrow Valley, but it would have been more like.
Oh no, but that's just the aid station, the next hub.
Oh, the next hub. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually kind of knew there was good stuff at that next hub because I had talked to Gillian. But
yeah,
like, when you're struggling at 100, well, 140 or 135, depending on what it actually really is. And then 15 Ks
Oh
is
my god,
is a
brutal.
long way. So
Yeah,
my feeling on the day, like, I did my best, and I think I, like, with all, like, the stuff that we had mentioned, like, at the end of the day, I did do my best, like, with what I knew I could.
Yeah, you smashed it. 142 k's, it's awesome. Yeah.
And it's like, I did my best, and
that's all we got to do,
Yeah,
That's all
yeah.
we got to do, Yeah, we do our best on the day, and it's just milers and running, and it's just in life there's so much like crossovers, and we do our best on the day, and that's what we do in our life too. We do our best on the day, with how we are and how things are on the day, and we have goals, whether it's life goals or race goals, and sometimes we don't achieve goals. Actually, very rarely do in life. I was thinking, in life, very rarely do the goals go exactly the way. There's always like variation, variation outcomes of goals, and it's our job to kind of adapt, accept and adapt like ourselves to the outcomes of those things along the way. That's Mila's life. So, that's why it's like that thing, life in a day. You get to experience life. All the things you get to experience in normal life, you sort of experience in one day in a Mila. Is where that kind of saying comes from.
Yeah, for sure, and
So we left macro, 130 odd Ks.
Yeah.
And pretty good. Like walking up Wrights Hill. I mean, the first half of Wrights Hill, because Wrights Hill's about 4 Ks or something, eh? Yeah, to the top of that car park, just under 4 Ks, I think it was. And for the first half of it, we were going all right.
2 Ks.
Yeah. But then I was kind of like, I could see that we're like starting to slow like quite a lot. And I was trying to encourage you forward. Because there was another guy that you had been yo-yoing with too. And we had overtaken him at the bottom of Wrights Hill at the start of the trail. And but then he like caught up to us and stuff, like whatever, a couple of Ks from the top. And that's when I could observe, because you were having some knee problems, right? And that's when I, observed, or we're talking about going down hills was a real problem, like with your knees.
Yeah, like my knee things sort of started like, remember them in kind of macro, they were quite bad, like just, pain. On one knee it was pain in front of the kneecap, and the other one it was pain below the kneecap. And I suppose like your mind sort of gives up before your body kind of situation. And because I've seen you keep going, and your like foot was really sore and stuff. And I think when I probably got like literally 2 Ks past macro, there was that little voice in my head saying, oh, maybe I can DNF at Arrow Valley. And I suppose I have never stayed up longer than 24 hours, and we're now like getting
a couple of times,
not over 24 hours.
True.
Like I've usually been, because you've done maybe I have, but like there's a different I definitely haven't been moving for over 24 hours. And so like even when you've been doing even with Kim when she did like sub 30, like I had naps and stuff, so I've never literally been awake for that long. And like my
out there
awake or moving, and my aid station stops weren't very fast. Like I didn't really have any naps or anything like that. But the voice in my head, and I think probably coupled with maybe a bit of lack of fueling, like you know, in a way, like I had experienced a little bit of nausea, but I think that was partly because I like took on this coffee caffeine gel, and I think it was just a little bit too much for my system.
Whereabouts?
I did that in Skyline. And then like I kind of, you know, drank like water and tried to nibble on things. Dried mango was pretty good. But I think generally I hadn't had enough fuel in me. And like Chris said, like my brain function was dwindling even for someone who had run like 140 Ks. So I kind of just broke down emotionally and started crying quite a lot. And I suppose just like I couldn't really pull myself like out of it. And then people who had passed earlier in the day started passing me. And then I was like, then it kind of dawned on me like, oh shoot, instead of having X time, I'm going to be out here for X time. And I hadn't even like mentally prepared myself to be out there for like 30 to 32 hours or whatever it would have been. So I just started giving up really. And like, yeah, there was just, and then I don't know, this like weird thing happened, like also seeing your pacer like walk, stop, like you're like realizing how like slow you're going, and then it's like how, you know, it's like it's a hard thing to do, like, you know, it's like you know, it's like having that sort of situation, because it's kind of like really confronting, like how slow you're going, seeing someone move and then stop, move and then stop,
and people come around you as well.
Yeah, just things like that. Like,
yeah, there was like the car parts track. We did like 2 Ks in an hour. When you're going 2 kilometers in an hour, it's it's hard going, eh? It's hard going.
Yeah, because
there was a couple of stops sitting at the side of the trail, you know, those kind of things, and it's just little steps. You know, I remember you taking little steps.
It was, well, I'm not surprised, because I in like in macrobit, I was doing like 12-minute Ks, and I thought I was flying. So when I was doing like 22-minute Ks, like that felt like how fast normal 12-minute Ks sort of felt, in a way. Like I was kind of running, but I was going very slowly. And yeah, it just kind of happened.
Yeah, that's sort of what happens, isn't it? Yeah, everything just.
Yeah, it's just. This is obviously my first DNF, and I guess like on a whole, like if we look at like everyone in CMF, like we haven't had hardly any DNFs.
In mileage, yeah, we don't get too many.
So like, you know, the story of how it happened, like maybe it happens really suddenly, like what it kind of felt like for me, like maybe there was some sort of red flags earlier on, but like the actual like thought of DNFing and the actual DNF was actually really short.
Even though there was like we talked about prior, a lot of other little influencing little things along the way.
Yeah.
We know that contribute. The actual drop was like this.
Yeah, it was really sudden, and obviously like, yeah, it's just, I think we were like, 2K-ish to
Arrowvalley aid station, yeah.
And I did see when we drove past that they had a whole lot of Coke, and even
I had a Coke in my bag.
I know, it's just like stuff like that, you're so stuck in the problem. I think I was just so stuck in the problem, and I suppose it can happen. And I guess like going forward, there's obviously been quite a few learnings from this.
So good.
And I guess like it's not so much about beating myself up for making the mistakes and having learnings. And I have to say thank you to everyone for your overwhelming messages, comments. I I really appreciate it, and
it's meant a lot to us both. Yeah,
and I heard, like, I hadn't actually heard it before, but DNF did not fail.
Did not fail. Yeah,
and I suppose, like, even comments about the fact that a miler, even doing a miler, getting to the start line of a miler is not something, it's a courageous thing, and I suppose it's just like put it into perspective, right? On what a miler is and why you do a miler, because I think for me the biggest learning is if it's for there was some genuineness in it, obviously, for me. Like, I wanted to do this to push myself. I've always wanted the goal of wanting to push myself in my running until I broke, and I think I achieved that. However, I felt like, in my head, my fantasy of breaking, I thought I would still finish, or something like that. There's like overcoming the adversity, but in this miler I couldn't. So that was achieved, but but also become a better for coaching, and to learn some things. I think, Chris, you have said it, like, it is pretty amazing, like, just tuning out of the world for 24, 30, 32 hours. And I think there was some elements of it as well as, like, I had fun, but also I took myself a little bit too seriously at times, because of my perfectionism. I suppose it was kind of revealing, but also, like, fun at the same time. And, like, I still ran a long way on a hard course, so I did, like, my watch just said for 147 in about 4,500 meters of elevation. It's like, I guess I have a choice to dwell in the things I didn't do, like didn't run those extra 20 odd Ks and that extra 500 meters elevation I didn't finish, all that kind of stuff, or I have the choice to take the learnings that I have learnt, and be grateful for what I did do.
Gotcha. I think as a runner, as a person, and as a coach, like, the learnings is, you almost did us a favour. No.
And it's like it's almost
a huge learning, eh?
And it's also at the precipice of DNFing. It's like, okay, why am I DNFing?
Because we talked about it, because you sort of started bringing it up a little bit, and then I was like, I think my first thing, you started bringing it up, and I said, let's just get to daylight first. That was the goal. Like I said before, I was like, because that must have been...
We did get to daylight.
Yep. So that was like just a little bit after Wrightsville, I think you started bringing it up. You're like, I don't know if I can finish, kind of thing. And I'm like, yes, you can. Like, we've just got to keep... Because then by then it was about trying to keep you walking. Like, so if you can walk 4Ks an hour, like, that's not too bad. Like, you can like close out a miler walking 4 kilometers an hour. So it's 15-minute, Ks. You get a decent walk, you might have poles, you can get a decent old like that's moving not too badly, like, to close out 20-25 Ks. So that was my goal, was to try and get you around that 4 Ks an hour mark, because I could see that was sort of slipping. We were like under 4, then it was under 3.5, then it was under 3. And so I was like, let's just as the pacer, I was just like, let's just get to daylight. Let's just try to keep, moving forward. And you had taken on a gel at one point there. And but it didn't seem to help you, actually, that gel. Because I remember being like, that didn't seem to, I don't know. And but then daylight kind of came in the end. And by that time we were on the back end of Car Parts Trail. And you were pretty much... That was it, eh? And then the discussion was happening then, about... I think in my mind I was like, well, if you want to, there's dropping here at Hawkins Hill, or it's carrying on to Arrow Valley. And that is another challenge about Faultline, by the way. There's another Faultline challenge about doing Faultline miler. It's really easy to drop. Like you're in Wellington CBD, like, or Wellington City, you're close to suburban and life all the time. You can catch an Uber so easily, which is invariably what we did. Caught an Uber to Hawkins Hill, which is where we were. Because we weren't going to go on any further.
Yeah, and it's like a sort of, like with the DNF as well, it's like, like if I had, it's kind of like the willingness also to how deep you're willing to actually go into the well of pain as well. And like, for me, like I was like, for me personally, I was like pretty like broken. I was sobbing. My head was like hanging low. I was like, had mentally checked out of the race, I think. And I was, and it's like at that moment, like I'm sure there would have been people out there that were like, nah, I'm finishing this thing, And I think actually in life, I have actually learned to be a bit kinder to myself, which obviously can be a very, really good thing. Like I used to be very hard on myself, like 6+ years ago, even less than that. But I was just really hard on myself, and through my journey of life, I've learned to be kinder to myself. And I guess in a situation like what happened to me, was where it's, I don't know if it's an asset or a defect but like it just would have felt like torture, I guess. And I guess that was my why I DNF'd, and it wasn't, like obviously like there was an element, I wasn't going to achieve anything close to my goal time, so there's like hurt pride, but there's also then there was that thing of like, if I was to keep going, I felt like I would have really struggled, and like I would have got to the finish line and then paid for it, like
other ways,
in other ways in my life, like in my relationship or in my work or in my how I feel about myself, and I guess at the end of the day, like it is just running.
That is the thing, eh? It's just running.
And I'm only 32, right? I'm like young, and I have a whole life ahead of me, and like, so, it's like one race where
exactly
I didn't achieve it, even though it was my first miler, and this is something that I've wanted to do since I paced Chris in 2020. I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. And I guess that's my why I DNF'd. And and so I suppose I've, like I said, I will, because now that I've had food and I've had rest and I have time,
couple of nights sleep,
and I have like, I'm going to do Tarawera 100 miler. Probably say this now,
I think on the race, right before, like, because I think we had like the final discussion, right? On Hawkins Hill, when I was sort of like, will you be all right, like living with, dropping like, 2-3 weeks down the line, or and equally the potential pressure that it puts on the second miler to, finish, that kind of thing. And you were like, well, I'm not doing another miler. I don't think I'm ever going to do, I think milers aren't for me. I don't think I'm doing another one. How often do we hear that, like? How often do we hear that? I'm sure I've thought that myself too, I don't know I'm going to do another one. I don't know how many I've got in me. I don't know how many more I can do. Maybe 2 or 3. I don't know, but that's what we think. But you were like, nah, I can live. I'm fine with this. I'm actually okay with this. Like, yes, you're very rational in that decision of like, nah, I'm actually fine with like dropping. Like, I'm done. I want to go home. and that's what we think. It's like by that time it's like Sunday morning, must have been 7:30 in the morning or something, and we're like, okay, let's go home.
Yeah.
And we so got an Uber to Hawkins Hill, like just down from the wind turbine, and then we're waiting for the Uber, and Benji shows up. Benji, race director, and just happens to drive up the hill with the event trailer on the back, and they're going up to the turbine to set up for the 25k race. And we're standing there at the side of the road off the trail, and he's like, stopping, you all good? And we're like, no, we dropped. And he stopped, and then the coffee van for the event was behind him, and then our Uber was behind the coffee van. Like, it was just this trail of cars. Yeah. And it was pretty awesome. Benji got out to give you a hug, and that was like pretty cool.
And I told him miles are hard.
Yeah, that was the thing, eh? They had a big hug and a bit of a cry, and milers are hard, and milers are hard.
Yeah,
that's milers are hard. Yeah.
But there is a solution to like doing them as well. It's like, doing hard things is good for you. There's an element of like pushing yourself and all that kind of stuff. There doesn't have to be, you don't have to like absolutely break yourself as well. You don't even have to do a miler to feel okay about yourself.
They're not for everyone.
And like, even though I joked that I'm never doing a miler again, maybe I will complete a miler and be like, right, that's it. But I suppose, I've come this far, I've come that far. I've done nearly 150 Ks. I've gone this far, and I've already thought about all the things that I could change to, make it better. And I think like, and I've also, heard from others, like, every mile is different and every mile is hard. And I suppose like, even though I will change this and that and all that kind of stuff,
you might have a new set of problems. It's been my experience doing my 3 milers so far. Different things to overcome each time.
But I guess, it's the overarching theme of like, if you have time goals and things like that, like maybe it just creates an extra pressure on things that is not necessary, and it creates a sort of like a compounding thing that when that rubber hits the road of getting it hard, it makes it a lot harder. I don't know. I'll find, but yeah, I'll find out.
More will be revealed.
We'll probably do another podcast, hopefully. I'm sure it won't be another DNF, but, it's like another year of running that I'll have under my belt as well, nearly a year of running.
Well, yeah, and that's what we kind of said. So if you sort of do look at a race like Tarawera Mile, for example, and you sort of, you look at the annual training plan, you look ahead, and you sort of, you want to have that sort of 2 or 3 pushes of like big stuff to get to a miler, and you've just done a big push now. So it's like, it's almost one way of looking at it is, you've just done one cycle of your first push to Tarawera, and then that second cycle, now it's like a recovery phase, and then you can have another build phase into like a Blue Lake, overnight run, and then a recovery phase, and then your next push into a Tarawera, And so there's positives like that to come out of something too, like not totally wrecking yourself like you talked about. You'll recover quicker than you would have otherwise, and live to fight another day,
pretty much.
You did awesome.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
And man, we've like just talking, and this has been good for us, I'm sure, like doing this and reflecting and just combos in the last couple of days, and man, like we both learned so much, like that we get to help runners and athletes with going forwards, and resilience for ourselves,
Definitely, huge resilience. It's just yeah.
Well, my friends, I think that's about it.
I think so.
Thank you for listening and watching, if you're watching on YouTube. If you like this podcast, we would love for you to join the CMF Run Club. It helps support doing stuff like this. It's just $60 a year. You can get access unlimited training plans with it as well. Discount codes galore. But yeah, it really helps support us to do stuff like this. Like, it's about a day's work, to put a podcast out, like, all together, like the hours of prep and editing and stuff. So it really does go towards helping us be able to put out content, and we really want to keep doing the podcast. And that's like part of our goals. We really love doing it, and we know that you guys really enjoy it too. So that's fulfilling to us, and we really appreciate. That was the other thing too. So we had a little expo, a little table set up at the Rego at Faultline, as we're event partners with Faultline, and it was just so cool having folks come up to us and be like, "Oh man, like, thanks so much for your course, previews for Faultline. Really helps, blah blah blah," and that sort of stuff like means the world to us, like, because we put these things out and we don't really hear much feedback, about so it's really nice. Like, it really means a lot to us. Like, when we saw you guys like come up to us at the thing, we're like, "Oh man, that was really good, the course video," so we really appreciate like that kind of stuff, and
just thinking that you don't even have to, like, if you want to contribute but you don't really want to be, it's almost like you don't want to be like a part of, like, you don't really want necessarily on the training plans or even the community or the discount codes, but you like, I guess, like the YouTube stuff, like that's it is definitely a reason to just join our run club. It's almost like Patreon, but
for sure.
But just in the product is a run club, but that could be another
that's sort
reason
of why that's why we created a day like that, is to sort of be that, because it's something different for everyone, really.
Mm-hmm.
Some people join just because of the codes. Some people like the Discord and the training weekends or whatever in that, and some people join just because of the podcast, And so that's the sort of our vision with it, really, isn't it? Anyway, my friends, give us a shout if you want any help with your running too. Free consult call, have a chat about any coaching, different ways that can work. Best thing to do is have a chat about it, go from there, and we will catch you on the next one.
See ya.
Catch you later.
Bye.